Hey, good morning, everybody. Hey, glad to be back this first Saturday in May. My name is Ed Samuel. I'm a career coach with a firm called Sam Nova. We're based in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, and serve clients in the greater Philadelphia area and across the U.S. You know, this morning, we're going to talk about preventive maintenance and some forward thinking as it relates to your career. You know, I ask people a question who are working, do you have a smoke detector for your, question mark? No, if you do, tell me more about that smoke detector. But most people that I talk to don't have a smoke detector. They don't even think about it. That you certainly want to listen to some of the reasons why you might need one this morning. You know, I have the opportunity to deal with hundreds and hundreds of people who are working all across the country. And some people are working at jobs for 20 years, 30 years. But some people, it's only 5 years, 6 months. Some people just started work and it's only been 60 days. And out of nowhere, someone walks in to their office or their cubicle and they say, come with me. And they're informed that this is the last day of employment. In other words, they get tapped on the shoulder. And really, with our at-will employment system in most states across the country, they don't even have to give a reason, an employer. They just said, please pack up your belongings. We need to escort you out the building. And next thing you know, you're very unemployed. And it really doesn't matter the reason, whether it's cost-cutting, reorganization, the new boss comes in and they don't like you. A new executive is known as the chainsaw cost cutter. Maybe they're getting ready to sell the firm. Maybe it was your performance. Maybe you did something wrong. Maybe the FDA did not approve a program or a drug. Maybe you lost your biggest account. But in the end, it really all doesn't matter. You find yourself now unemployed and you didn't see it coming. What happens next? Now, and I've, again, worked with countless people where this has happened. Now, when you find yourself unemployed unexpectedly, some people believe, well, the firm's going to give me some type of outplacement service. In other words, they're going to pay for some kind of support. And you have to be careful because it's not guaranteed outplacement. And, outplacement, for those of you who have never heard the word before, it's employers try to go out of their way to put some money aside to help people with a transition into the job market. And it can be a little bit of money, it could be a lot of money, but it's really they're trying to make a good faith gesture to their former employee that, hey, we're going to try to help you the best we can. Companies have learned over the years that, based on surveys that have been done, that when companies help people do outplacement, employee satisfaction for those employees that remain at the firm actually goes up. Now, most of these outplacement services are tied usually to a severance agreement of some sort that the former employee or soon-to-be former employee needs to sign, and that's part of it. But, outplacement comes in three forms, and I'll do a longer segment on outplacement this year. But there's a very expensive version where there's one-on-one coaching. It's over a period of time. There's training, there's programs, there's tools. Then you have good outplacement where you get kind of all that, but in a very shorter period of time. And it may not all be one-on-one coaching with a senior person. And then you get cheap, which might be a video, might be a half-day training. Coach that you speak to might be 900 miles away. But all in all these programs have a time cap. Now, here's the bad part. The bad part is not every company is going to provide outplacement. So here are some statistics I pulled. So if you're a director, executive, senior, VP, CEO, 55% of the time you'll get outplacement, but 45% will not get any type of support. If you're a manager or an individual professional, 37% may get some form of outplacement support, but 63% of the time you'll get no outplacement support. And if you're an entry-level person, let's say an hourly worker, on the manufacturing floor, 33% will get some form of training or support. 67% will not. So I share these statistics with you to say that, hey, if you're working, outplacement is not a guarantee. And even if you do get outplacement support, you may not get the most expensive version, and it may give you just a little bit of help. So then we go back to what can you do if you're working? And that outplacement's not guaranteed, and you really want to have a smoke detector in your career. So here's this is kind of where we start. I'm a big fan of, advocating of people hiring a career coach while they're working. And hiring a career coach is like, getting a tune-up with your car. It's about taking a look at all facets of what would happen if you lost your job out of the blue. It's a little bit like buying an insurance policy, just in case. But the advantages are significant. So when I think about, who's a smoke detector in your career, well, a career coach could very well be that smoke detector. When we think about, let's say you're working for a company, you've been at it for, 15, 20 years, and everything's going great, there's a high probability your resume is not current. And, and some people, that I talk to that have been let go after 20 years, they never even touched their resume in 20 years. They don't even know how to go about thinking about putting the resume together. Sometimes, it doesn't have to be 20 years. It could be 10 years, 5 years. But is your resume sharp? If somebody called you up and said, hey, we have a great opportunity, can you send them an updated resume? And what was okay on a resume 15 years ago, 20 years ago, is not okay today. Many, many things on a resume have changed over the years. What used to be normal is, you'd be considered, not normal if you put those same things on a resume. And most importantly, if you got let go tomorrow by a company and you looked at that resume, you dusted it off, could you articulate what your value proposition is? And that becomes, your selling card if you were going to enter the job market. So again, is your resume sharp? That's something a career coach would help you with. Now, the second item would be, social media. If you're a working professional, especially a salaried worker, you best have a LinkedIn account. And one of the recent surveys that I've seen is that 75 to 80% of all recruiters and or hiring managers are looking at LinkedIn to make a decision on whether they're going to move forward with you as a candidate or not, or certainly they're looking at that. Well, for many people that are working, and I was guilty of this many years ago, I did not even have a LinkedIn account. That's the big problem if you're going to hit the job market. And that LinkedIn account, 80% of the people are going there and you don't have one. Or let's say you do have one. And I see many, many LinkedIn accounts where it's just the person's name. It might be a title. There might be a couple of words written in, and the person might have 7 connections. That's going to put you in a very, very bad way entering the job market. There's many, many things people can do to improve that. And a career coach would help you build out that LinkedIn profile while you're working. Now, the other thing that you need to do is, well, if I had to start applying for jobs, how does that work? And is it like it was 20 years ago, 15 years ago? But the sad statistic is that on average in the US, for every job that's posted online, there's 300 applicants. And of those 300 applicants, only about 2% will ever get to a hiring manager. Well, if you're going to be depending on that, do you really know how those applicant tracking systems work today and how you get visibility? Again, a career coach is going to help you figure that out. Now, and in today's world, much harder just to walk into a building and say, can I talk to the boss? Here's my resume. I want to hand it to him or her. That worked okay 25 years ago. Doesn't work so much today because somebody might look at you and say, well, are you on LinkedIn? We'll look you up. They might say, hey, send it to me electronically. So it may not be as simple as what you might think the job market was some time ago. Now, here's another one that really, really hurts people who are working and they start to become insulated in a company, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20. The question is, do you have a formal network? Or is your network still based on the good old boy and girls that have helped you along your career? Maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 people that have just helped you move along. Or do you need to build a new one? Do you need to build a formal network? Because what happens if you lost your job and those people that helped you along, they retired? God forbid they died. They're no longer there for you. What happens if your good buddy, the recruiter, closes practice down or her practice down? They're no longer there for you. What are you going to leverage? What are you going to lean on if you don't have a large formal network? And again, the argument is, hey, Ed, I'm working today. Everything's fine. I don't have to worry about such things. But where's your smoke detector? What are you doing to protect yourself if you get tapped on that shoulder? Building a formal network is something you need to do. And that's what a career coach can help you do. And it takes time to build a formal network. I have close to 22,000 LinkedIn connections today, and I promise you it didn't happen overnight. It happened over time, and you have to be methodical about it and a little bit strategic about it and build that network out. But a career coach can help you do that. Now, the other thing that happens is, you hit the job market, and it's tied to LinkedIn at one degree, but there's many other aspects. How have you branded yourself in the marketplace? And there are firms that are actually hiring people to do nothing but branding people so that when they hit the job market, they're attractive to other employers. And if you ask yourself the question, well, hey, what's my branded image look like? If you don't have a LinkedIn account, maybe you don't have a Twitter account, maybe you don't have a Instagram account, maybe you don't have a Facebook account, maybe you don't believe in any of that. But the question still remains, how are you branded into the marketplace? And maybe you don't have anything other than Facebook, and on Facebook, you're letting your hair down on vacation, and that's the only branded image of you in the marketplace. Career Coach is going to help you create a professional branded image in terms of who you are so you can leverage and do well in the marketplace. Now, another thing that you have to look at if you're working today, and I did a segment on this a few months back, are you overpaid today? Are you underpaid today in your current job? You need to know that. And I did that segment a month ago or so, a couple months ago, on what person would need to do to figure that out on their own, especially if your company did not want to tell you that. But if you hit the job market, you need to know that right out of the gate. Some people I work with, they've been with the company 25 years, and based on what they've been able to do and accomplish, they're grossly overpaid. And if they hit the job market expecting that amount of money, they're going to be quite disappointed. Other people are very underpaid, and if they hit the job market, they're going to be surprised. They might be able to actually increase where they need to go next. And some people might be just right at the right spot. They're doing well and they're being paid well, but do you know that for certain? So again, part of that smoke detector effort by a career coach is to try to help figure that out while you're working, not when you get tapped on the shoulder. Now, another aspect that you have to take a look at is if you're in a company for 15 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, and you have these different jobs, and you're in this current job with this job title doing this work, how does that job title and what you're doing translate into the job market today? And you have to be really careful because there are some companies that give you a job title that has absolutely nothing to do with what the job market job descriptions look like. And one example, there's a company that will call everybody a team leader. But that, when you look at the actual work, the last thing you would want to do going into the job market is call yourself a team leader, because any other company would call you the vice president of that particular function of work. Again, it kind of ties back to the resume, ties back to you having an understanding in terms of who you are, not just within your current company, but who you are in terms of how it translates into the job market itself. Now, here's one that's a twist somewhat. If you enter the job market and the first person you walked into said, hey, I'm interested in talking to you, but what's the strength of your personality? And if you just stare at that person and you're not sure how to even answer it, again, you need to know who you are at your current company. Do a personality survey. There's many, many DISC surveys as an example out there, but know who you are. Potential employees are going to want to know who you are. And many times they're thinking about not just hiring you, but how are you going to fit in terms of into my team structure? And do you want to be ahead of that question or behind that question? So again, a career coach will help you pick a personality survey. It doesn't have to be exhaustive, but then review the results and try to figure out who you are and what would make the best fit if you were to go thrown into the job market in terms of what that future job would look like and the type of team that you're going to work best in. Let's do something even more fundamental. Hey, you haven't interviewed for 20 years, 15 years. You just got tapped into the shoulder. Are you ready for interviews? Are you ready for the new video interviews? I just had one of my clients was asked, hey, we're not really going to interview you with a live person. We're going to send you an application via the internet. And when you click on it, a screen's going to pop up and this artificial intelligent person is going to be having a conversation with you and you get to actually talk to this non-human being and actually do an interview. And it's going to be recorded. And that's going to be your first interview to determine whether you're ready for the next stage at that company. Are you ready for those kind of interviews? Are you ready for panel interviews? Are you ready to go to a company that's going to have 8 different interviews and then come back again for 4 more? And if you are going to interview, what are you going to say? How are you going to say it? Are you ready to interview? A career coach helping you while you're working hone in on your interviewing skills is something that could come back to bless you in many ways, especially if you were let go unexpectedly. Now, this kind of goes back to something I see happening all the time. If you're working at a job, and I don't care if you're at that job 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, is this the job that you were meant to be in related to who you are in your life and your skills? If you enter the job market, would you say, well, I want to do something completely different? Well, why not think about doing something completely different and transition to that while you're working instead of once you get tapped on the shoulder and you're getting let go? You know, good career coaches can actually put you through a very thorough career and life assessment and spend a couple of hours with you and help work through if what you're currently doing makes sense or not. So that if you found yourself unemployed, if you found yourself looking for that next job, you already have kind of a life direction that you want to head right out of the gate, and it doesn't become a 2 or 3 or 4 month thought process once you get let go. The other question is, are you living where you want to live? Many people say, well, I always wanted to go back home to Michigan to work. Well, or do you want to go south? Or do you want to go north? Do you know that? Have you talked that through? Or is it going to be, hey, let's not worry about it. But again, if you want to go to Michigan, maybe you'll never get laid off and you'll never get to Michigan, but that's where you really want to be. Have a career coach try to help you through that. Now, one other item that becomes important is, you should be asking yourself a question. A career coach could help you with this. What professional organizations are you affiliated with, now that you're working and everything's going great? I worked with some people that in marketing, as an example, 15 years, 20 years, but they're not associated with any external professional marketing organization at all. Everything becomes insulated within the company they work for, and they get kind of complacent and they're not being pushed. They're not growing like they could be by learning and being on the bleeding edge of what that professional organization is teaching people and pushing people and asking questions to people about. Now, going hand in hand with that, if you're part of a professional organization, it also makes sense that if you get involved with one or two and you're really, really smart at what you do, you might be asked to lead a subcommittee. You might be asked to be, to give a presentation at a regional event. And if you're really good, you might be asked to be a spokesperson to be part of a national event. But it's interesting. All these things add to your value proposition that adds to who you are. And a career coach, if you're working, can help you figure out what things make the most sense for you to do while you're working. Another thing a career coach can do is really help you with your professional development. Specifically, do you need certifications? And let's just say you were doing project management work for a company and you're doing a great job, but you don't have your PMP, and that's a certification in project management. But yet 33% of all jobs out there today require it, that are project management oriented, and you have the opportunity while you're working to get it, and your company may even pay for it. And yet you're not even thinking about it because, hey, everything's going great. I'll never be tapped on the shoulder. And I'm here to tell you, you can't rest on that notion. And then lastly, is a career coach helping you get a secondary form of income while you're working? And I'm a big fan of that. I did a 3-part series last year on the need and reasoning for why you want a secondary income stream coming in while you're working. And there's much more a career coach can do as a smoke detector to help you. But, I've tried to hit on some highlights of why you would want to bring somebody in to be that smoke detector in your career while you're working and while everything is going great. Because if you don't do those things and you're counting on outplacement, it's not guaranteed. And you just heard the statistics earlier where a lot of the times, most of the time, you're not going to get it. So if you're tapped on your shoulder, out of the blue, with this investment in this type of smoke detector pay off for you. And I promise you, if you did, you're going to be way ahead of the curve. I couldn't think of anything better for, to advise people to do, because when you're working, you also have a little bit more money to invest in this type of career coach or smoke detector for your business. So, all right, well, let me wrap up now with 4 points. One is ask yourself the question, hey, do I have a smoke detector for my career? ? If the answer is no, then I'll challenge you, why not invest in one? Call a career coach. Get involved and be proactive. At minimum, talk to one. Call me up, talk to somebody. You'll be surprised. And you might be able to spread the effort over a period of time. So you don't have to do all the work in 60 days or 90 days. Maybe it's over a year. And number 4, most importantly, is that having one will help you move very quickly into a competitive job market, especially if it's thrusted upon you in a very unexpected way. So we're just about out of time. Please join us again on the next Optimize Your Career program on Saturday, May 18th at 8 o'clock. Our topic will be applicant tracking systems, do's and don'ts when applying for a job online. This is Ed Samuel, career coach with Samnova. Our website is www.samnovainc.com. If you'd like to reach me, feel free to email me at esamuel@samnovainc.com or call our main number at 610-274-8214. Make it a great day. So long for now, and God bless.